Ladies and gentlemen, back with another video. So today, well, yesterday, I had the day off, and I did a lot of running around, and I stopped at an old record store I used to go to all the time years ago, before I moved to Pittsburgh. And this store basically, um, they've been in a couple different locations, and really they kind of specialized in used CDs, and they never really had vinyl or anything like that. But within the last, maybe 2 or 3 years or so, they started selling records, like used records. And they're not open on Sundays, so I really haven't had a chance to go. So that happens when you're doing yard work when you come home from work. So I really haven't had a chance to go until yesterday, since I had the day off. So I stopped in, and it's one of those deals that, like if you've, usually it's like when you go to a place that you've never done any digging for or digging at, you kind of go and you sort of, clean house. And it was so weird. Like the records were just all over the place. And like you couldn't even like walk through the little section that they had them. But I mean, they had boxes and boxes of records. And it's one of those places where, some of the records are priced and some of them are not. So I'll kind of show you what I got. So basically, I'm going through and I'm digging, and all the records that were priced, I'm pulling some of these to the side, and they kind of had this sort of like walkway, sort of like blocked off, kind of into the center of the room. Like you sort of like walked in and went around, and then there was like, I don't know, they had like all these country records that were in bins, in crates. And I was like, well, you know what, I'm gonna go, and who cares? I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna dig around and see what I can find. So I went through and I'm looking, and I'm finding all kinds of really cool stuff. So the only problem is, a lot of the stuff wasn't priced or anything like that. So I go and I have, this big stack of records, and, there's a lot of records that, like, it's like, yeah, I really don't have a problem paying $1 for, but if they're going to be more than that, I'm going to probably, be hurting after this visit. So long story short, I kind of I got a pretty good deal. I'll show you what I got and sort of some of the prices. I took a lot of stuff that was in shrink wrap. I took it off, so I don't see the prices on them anymore. But I go down to the desk and I'm like, okay, well, these ones had prices on it and these ones didn't. And the guy, he does the thing that nobody ever wants to happen, where he just goes over on the computer and he starts typing in stuff. And he was like, if it's not in this database, then I'll give it to you for $1. So thankfully, a lot of the stuff I was picking out, I did get a lot of like Starday and Nashville stuff, which I'll show. And but there was a lot of, the privately pressed stuff obviously wasn't in there. So I finally got some good gems. So I'll show you. So sit back. I got a big stack to go through. So this one was $5. Grandpa Jones, living legend, country music. So Grandpa Jones, kind of a famous banjo player. This is on the King label, which we kind of talked about, out of Cincinnati. So very cool stuff. They kind of have these. It's funny because these are Jerry. Got a picture of String Bean on there. These pictures are actually reversed. There's Roy Acuff there, and they sing "This is Roy Acuff." But really cool. It's super clean condition. It was in one of those sleeves that sort of have that plastic inside to them, so it's like super clean. So that was a cool find. Steel guitar and dobro sounds. This is on Nashville. Shot Jackson and Buddy Emmons, which I believe Buddy Emmons was with Ernest Tubb for a little bit. So $4 on that one. Kind of a little banged up, but still pretty good. I've never seen this one before. So this one I had, but he basically gave it to me for 99 cents. So I think the record was better than the one I had. All-time country music great Cowboy Copas, who Cowboy Copas was He was in the plane wreck with Patsy Cline, and on the Starday label. So Starday basically is kind of like hillbilly country music. So there's some gospel and sacred songs, and there's all kinds of really good stuff on the Starday label. So here's Gospel Special, the Lewis Family. That one was $1.96. I have this one, but again, this is another one that's like in really good condition, and it was in the shrink wrap. Nashville Steel Guitar. That was $2 for that one. This is a classic. This was only 99 cents, and again, this was in the shrink wrap, so it definitely is in better condition than mine. I know that's sort of no ring wear on this one. Mine's kind of bad, but 10 Little Bottles, Johnny Bond, probably his most well-known later period sort of comedy song. Starday. This was 99 cents. One that I didn't have, Porter Wagoner, The Farmer. Porter Wagoner sort of in the late 60s and early 70s pretty much put an album out every 3 or 4 months. So there's a ton of albums from Porter Wagoner. Here's another on the Starday label. This is the Hit Parade of Bluegrass, Flats and Scruggs, Reno and Smiley. I kind of like, the one thing sort of, that I collect the same kind of records just because of, much like Elektra and, the None Such records, they sort of all have kind of the same, they had a certain way that they did their records, which I thought was is pretty cool. So, where you have records that are kind of designed differently by each group. These sort of have the same familiar kind of style to them. So that's it for the Starday stuff. Here's a handful of Roy Acuff records that I got. 99 cents. That Glory Bound Train. So Roy Acuff, of course, wrote some great songs. He's sort of the one of the fathers of country music, I guess. Sort of came along in that early period when country music, before it sort of went pop in the 70s and things like that. So, of course, wrote the Wabash Cannonball, which is a country favorite. Don't worry, there's some sort of psychedelic stuff coming up. Don't worry. Here's Old Rock and Earn, which is Tennessee Ernie Ford, sort of his rocking album that he did, if you will, if you want to even call it that. But got Catfish Boogie on it, so you can't pass that up. So this was 99 cents. The other thing I realized too, like it's like, I'm sort of like, leaning over these different boxes of records to put stuff, and I realized that there was I had a handful, maybe 4 or 5 records that I didn't pick up. So I kind of put them over to the side, and I forgot about them when I was moving everything around, so I didn't get them. But here's one that's kind of fun. I'm excited to listen to this. This is on Scepter Records, which was one of the reasons why I bought it. But it's called Solid Grease, Big Wheelie and the Hubcaps. And this one he actually did charge me $1.69 for. But it just is weird. It's, there's 26 like classic, like Jailhouse Rock, All Shook Up, Heartbreak Hotel, Hound Dog, Wake Up Little Susie, Peggy Sue, Lollipop, Great Balls of Fire. That's just on one side. So I don't know. It just is kind of, there's that time in the 60s where there was sort of like, like Sha Na Na and stuff like that. So I thought it was some sort of a rarity, so picked it up. Here's another classic. This one's great. This is on Pickwick, so it's sort of like this is the Hilltop, which was sometimes a little bit better than the Hilltop, like as far as like with vinyl quality. Sometimes the Pickwick ones are kind of a little sketchy, but anytime that you see something that's like on Hilltop, usually it's like a reissue of some of their harder to find, maybe out of print albums. I'm not sure which album this one is, but anytime you get a Lovin' Brothers one, like is some great stuff. So that was cool. $2 for that one. Here's a local group, probably best known for 5 O'Clock World, and of course, You're the One. This is the Vogues. So $1.69 for that. Probably the cleanest copy I think I've ever seen of this ever. Usually they're completely destroyed. This one was just, I don't really see this one, so for $2 I figured, what the hey. The Versatile Impressions, So this is sort of, Curtis Mayfield before he sort of broke out on his solo career. And I think you look at this way. If you kind of look at it in an angle, you should be able to kind of see fun stuff. Another Roy Acuff album. I have this already, but again, this was in shrink wrap and looked really good. It's The King of Country Music, which is great. It's on his Hickory label. I have this already, so this is definitely anybody who's looking for this, I'll definitely be interested in trading it for you. $3 for this, which I think I probably paid $5 or $6 for mine, but Roy Acuff and his Smoky Mountain Boys hand-clapping gospel songs. This is fantastic. This is some great, like, somebody touched me, turn on the radio. Jesus died for me. So there's so many good songs on this one. So that Glory Bound Train, uplifting country music there. Here's another Star Day one I forgot about. It's $3 for this one. Country Guitar, 14 instrumentals by America's foremost guitar stylists. Earther Guitar Boogie Smith. Of course, there's some great stuff on there. Probably, and Billy Bird. Billy Bird was played with Ernest Tubb. A lot of these guys sort of, got solo deals through Nashville and Star Day. So again, this is another one I think is a sort of an upgrade for me. I think mine is sort of all busted down at the bottom. This was a fun one. Here's one of your psych ones. This one was still in the shrink, so I took it off. It was just an absolutely beautiful copy of this. Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart, Test Patterns. I actually have a DJ copy of this, but I think this jacket is just phenomenal. It's in good shape. Out and Abouts on this one is probably the biggest one, but some good stuff. Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart, love their stuff. This is the Blue Sky Boys. Not really too sure what's on this, but it says it's original and great early authentic country recordings. So saying about stuff maybe from like the early 30s and things like that. So Down on the Banks of the Ohio, Story of the Knoxville Girls. So these are sort of like old country standards. This is another local band, sort of like bluegrass, New Haven. The Sun Can Play Tricks with Your Eyes. Autographed by the band, many members of the band. Not really anything that I'm seeing just looking at it that it's anything that's written from someone other than the band. So, but again, this is sort of on a local label, so I wanted to pick this up. So it's cool. Here's one that I never see. I always see the 45s of this, so I was really excited to get the LP. $3 for this, which isn't too bad. Which is the Chairman of the Board. Give me just a little more time. You never see the Invictus stuff. You never see it everybody always seemed to have the 45s, but nobody had the LPs. So, especially in pretty good shape like that. So, I was excited for that one. And the same thing here. So they had a bunch of Motown records. A lot of Smokey Robinson and the Miracle stuff that I've never seen before. I didn't pick them up, but I picked this one up. So the Temptations Psychedelic Shack. Definitely when they, obviously started, this is from 1970, when they started going in that direction with, like Cloud 9 and things like that. So, you never see this in good shape. So this is always trashed. So it was nice to get that one. All right, some more local stuff. Again, I had this one, so this is sort of like an upgraded, jacket and vinyl for me, but I have this, maybe 2 copies of this. Don and Chicky Williams together. They're from Wheeling, West Virginia. Cat Fisher, 73, Jerry knows these records well. So I think this was $1 for this one. Here's another one. This is one that I've yet to see. $4 for this, which is pretty much what I would probably pay in the record store for it. So I wasn't really too worried about that. Doc Williams, Wheeling Back to Wheeling. Whoever this guy is, this is Wigginton or Willing, whatever, Wigton. Most of the records came from that same collection. So Wildwood Flowers on here. Trying to remember what else. There's some Gene Autry tunes, a couple Cliff Carlisle, things like that. So cool stuff on there. Here's some fun stuff. Peter from the Netherlands. I'm sure you'll dig this. Just like you always get the Willie Nelson albums without the beard. Uh, there's Johnny Paycheck. I think the shrink wrap's amazing with the original artist top hits from Murphy's GC Murphy and Co. Murphy's Music. So this was $5 for this one. It has apartment number 9 on it. I have this, but it was from the dollar bargain basement of Jerry's records, so it's sort of all scratched up. So it was good to get a clean copy of that. I was excited about that one. Pre take this job and shove it, Johnny Paycheck. I think this is the last of the Doc Williams one. I think this is his very first album. It says the new Doc Williams favorites, old and new. So I don't know if they're like re-recorded or something like that, but he's some great stuff. He was like a radio DJ for a while, and sort of became the kind of the Wheeling Jamboree, was sort of the host of the Wheeling Jamboree. Here is country great Patsy Cline. Again, another really clean album with some vocalation in the shrink wrap. That was $2 for that one. All right, so now some of the fun stuff. So I'll show you. Start for this one. I know Bo, Mr. Earhead 6, would be all over this. This is Boss, the Rumblers. So the Rumblers were named after Link Ray, the Rumble. Sort of all instrumental. If Wild Weekend, kind of give you an idea on what these guys kind of sound like. They play the Rumble, and then Boss was sort of their big hit. So kind of the 60s garage band, heavy on the sax. There was no singing, so it was like the guy playing the sax. So this is one of those things, he types it in the computer, and like I knew this was something, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't like 100% sure what it was, but I was like, oh, I'll pick this up. If you'd see this record, you probably would buy it. So he goes and he puts it on the computer, and he's like, oh wow, this is going for $20. And I was like, I don't know if it's like $20 good. And he's like, well, I'll give it to you for 10. So again, the law of averages, $3 is sort of right where you want to kind of get your stuff. So you take into consideration, you add one of the 99-cent records to this, and now you have 2 records for $11, and so on and so forth. So it all evens out in the end, but that's a pretty great one. It was in the shrink wrap. So you can see it's not too much, no ring wear or anything like that. These were fun. I mean, I consider myself a pretty big Rolling Stones fan. These were $10 for these. So they're sort of like the Soviet, I think, either Soviet or Czech. I'm not exactly sure. This is the Rolling Stones all together. It has a picture of Between the Buttons on it, an outtake photo. But from what I can tell, so we have She Smiled Sweetly, Connection, Yesterday's Papers, Cool, Calm, and Collected, and Something Happened to Me Yesterday, which I believe are all off of Between the Buttons. And then you have Miss Amanda Jones, In Another Land, 2,000 Light Years from Home, She's a Rainbow, and Sing It All Together. So you have some of this stuff from Their Satanic Majesty's request. So I'm not entirely sure what these are. I don't know if there's a number on them. So they're like, I don't know if it's like, this indicates like, if you get them all, it's basically in chronological order based on singles or whatever. I'm not entirely sure, so I'm going to take a look at it though. Actually, yeah, these are Russian. I'm sorry, they're not Czechs. This is CCP on it there, if it focuses. No, take my word for it. And then I also got this one, which is my receipt. And this one, this is Rolling Stones Play with Fire. So side 1 has the King Bee, Honest I Do, Carol, Route 66, You Can Make It If You Try, Congratulations, If You Need Me, and It's All Over. Which I believe is from either the first album, I think the first album and the second album, I want to say. And then the second side has Time Is On My Side, Confession Blues, Under the Boardwalk, Around and Around, As Tears Go By, Play with Fire, Last Time. So it seems like stuff maybe from like 64 and 65, things like that. So I'll have to do some more research and kind of see what exactly these are. I think what they were is maybe just like a chronological, every single, song and track that the Stones did. I think that's what it is, and then you just kind of got them all and had the complete discography. So, and last two that I wanted to show you. So, I did find some interesting sort of privately pressed kind of stuff. There's some more stuff that I'm just not going to show you. I realize that um, time is a finite resource. So this one, he charged me $6 for this. So this was actually like one of the most expensive records out of the whole bunch. It's a 2 LP set. It's by the group Eternity Express. So like their debut album is like, this is like Christian rock, I guess you could say. Their first album that they have, go search it out on Discogs, or even look it up on YouTube. There's like it's like they're trying to be a rock band. Like it's very kind of, oh man, it's clunky, but it's like, I don't know. They're sort of like they want to be like rock star dudes, and it's not like it's hard to describe. I want to say Black Sabbath, but it's not really like as hard as Black Sabbath. But I'd say like sort of simple melodic, chording structure sort of thing, sort of like Black Sabbath. But this one, I haven't listened to this one yet, but it's definitely when they sort of did their, I guess, sort of their. It's kind of like a country pop kind of thing. So, and again, so one of the reasons why that I like to find this music, like, so I know that you guys are sort of maybe noticing something with my videos, and I'm not really going to like true record stores recently or lately. I'm kind of looking for like more obscure stuff that just is, kind of cast to the wind. But there's a really interesting story about this. So a lot of times that you have, and I don't want to get into like a big faith argument and religion and bring that all into the videos, but there's something intriguing about sort of evangelism and sort of music. So I find that I'm trying to think of the best way to tread lightly with this. So the consumerism and like I'm trying to think of. I'm sorry. This is kind of. I didn't really think this out before I started talking about it. Consumerism and I guess you could say like taking people's money and using deceitful methods for things. Obviously, evangelism. There's no. We don't have to hide anything about that. The Tammy Faye Bakers and things like that. There's all kinds of, all evangelists are always rooted in, they have one hand in the collection bin and the other, they're flamboyant, things like that. These guys are no exception to that. So there's this guy, his name is Dan Gobb, and Dan Gobb is this guy here with this beautiful perm. And basically, if recently, I'd say probably within the last 2 or 3 years, he was involved in this gigantic scam that was in Washington State, and basically owed maybe like $40 million to people from creating this Ponzi scheme. But he was in this band, and he sort of went on. There's, I think, the Illuminators or Illuminators, I think is what it was. Illumination, I think is the name of the band. They sort of went on and sort of morphed from the Ken Gobb. Ken Gobb is still he's still a evangelist to this day, but Dan Gobb definitely went a different direction. So I don't know. This stuff is just intriguing to me. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting part of American culture, and I certainly. I don't know. It's intriguing. So there's that. The other thing is, I know my last video I showed. What was it here? I showed this, right? This is the Don Powell Sings Country Music Gospel Camp Meeting Style. So I talked a little bit more with my father about it, and lo and behold, I found another one, Camp Meetin'. No G on the end, so that's how you know it's better, because it's it has that sort of southern thing, and it's in quotation marks. Recorded in 10th Cathedral. So this one actually was like stuffed with 3 records by him. So there's the one record that was supposed to be in here, or maybe this is supposed to be like a 4-record set. I don't know. But it is the true. This is the real deal right here. So it's live recordings from a tent revival. So again, so sort of there's that small that small line to folkways music and sort of field recordings and things like that. So that's why I find this stuff interesting. So don't think that it's I'm going through a born again phrase. 99 cents for that one, by the way. It's not. These really don't have to do anything with my faith. I find this interesting, and I find it this weird sort of portion of music that exists out there in the realm. So thank you for watching. Tried to make this short. I showed a lot of records. We'll see you on down the trail.